What's your status on the apparatus? Cancel Kings, Puncho here, guys. And today we're going to be going over Donald Trump's agenda for what he has for 2025 and going forward with his administration. These are some things he may be doing the first 90 days or so of his campaign or his actual presidency. So let's take a look and see what he's got for us.
My plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all. And corruption it is.
Okay.
First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled, so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able
to be controversial.
Persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications.
It's going to be tough to do, too.
So many judges have seen so many applications.
Especially for time-sensitive warrants.
At least they must have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied to. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption. And there are plenty of them. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy.
That's going to be tough.
We will press criminal charges. Sixth, we will make every inspector general's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee, so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns
we already do that,
against the American people.
Maybe it can be improved.
They are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Just as I moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado, as many as 100,000 government positions could be moved out, and I mean immediately, of Washington.
No more DC per diem
places filled
or
with
cost of living allowance.
Who love America, and they really do love America. Ninth, I will work to ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with and that they regulate. So they deal with these companies and they regulate these companies, and then they want to take jobs from these companies.
It's a good idea. Tough, but we'll see how he does it.
Such a public display cannot go on, and it's taking place all the time, like with Big Pharma. Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people.
Interesting.
Thank you very much.
Well, there's a lot there, guys. I'm very curious how he feels like he's going to do a lot of that stuff. Some of it is redundant, things we already do. For example, with the collecting intelligence against U.S. citizens, it's already illegal for the intelligence community to do that. So I'm wondering if he's talking about the CIA or the FBI. The CIA and other intelligence members of the intelligence community are not allowed to collect intelligence on U.S. citizens, according to the Intelligence Oversight Program. Unless he's talking about the FBI, who's spying on him? The CIA? I think maybe they got caught with their pants down on some things they were doing. But the FBI isn't very effective if they can't spy on U.S. citizens, because that's all they do. So it's going to be interesting to see how he brings more transparency to the U.S. intelligence community and how they collect information. I know that he was also saying that sometimes the intelligence community collects information, and he said specifically against him, and they use a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, a FISA warrant to do the same. So he's saying he's going to change the process for the FISA warrant. Is he going to slow it down and make it more difficult to get a warrant, which is feasible for something that's a very static long-term investigation? But what if it's a time sensitive thing that we need a warrant really quickly for when it comes down to intelligence surveillance and they need to do that kind of stuff? So is he going to slow that down when we're trying to track terrorists and need a quick warrant, or we have a domestic terrorist, for example, and we need to collect that information quickly via the FBI, or the CIA has ties to someone from a different country that's working with someone in the U.S.? How's that all going to work? So very curious. He talked a lot about the intelligence community, and he is right. They shouldn't be collecting information against a U.S. citizen, let alone a political party, unless they're the FBI and there is a crime. But his argument is that there was no crime, and in some ways he was right. He talked a lot about trying to drain the swamp from people that are liberals in the government that are attacking conservatives and Christians. So I guess he's going to be going after career civil servants that have been there 30, 40 years and the SES level. So that's going to be very interesting. In addition to draining folks like that, to include congressmen that have been, in Congress forever, he's saying he's going to put term limits or just get rid of some of those folks. Maybe a good idea. You think of your Nancy Pelosi's, your Ted Cruz's. He's going to affect Republicans too with that mindset. So how are they going to feel about him getting rid of their folks who have corporate knowledge and have been there forever? But if you're trying to do new things in Washington, D.C., these are the folks who are putting up barriers to that progress. So very interesting to see how all that works. And and he said he's going to do this for the American people because it's a part of democracy. But at the same time, those folks have been there forever, but they're going through an election process to be there. The people are electing them. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. It could, but having somebody fresh and new in there all the time isn't always the best idea. Sometimes you need your folks who have that corporate knowledge. He talked about removing IG offices from being co-located with the organizations that they're tasked to investigate. Probably a good idea, because sometimes you'll have the IG office that's down the hall from an organization that they're in. Who's to say that the division chief or the person who's running that government agency isn't having golf with the IG, or, it may be a good idea to not have them co-located and remove them from that particular area to kind of clamp down on fraternization. And he also talked about moving some of the bureaucracy within DC out of DC. That might be a good idea. I don't see an issue with that as much. It may be more difficult to get some of the basic legwork done. But when you're talking about, the National Engraving Service or some of the more smaller organizations in the government, that could be a beneficial thing just to get them out of the bureaucracy. What else he talked about? He has some very interesting points about auditing systems, and I don't know. We'll see. A lot of this is bitterness, and a lot of it also seems like he really wants true transparency for the government. And I'm thinking, if he's really upset about what happened to him and he was guilty, he wouldn't want this stuff to take place. Granted, he's putting a few stumbling blocks in place for intelligence collection and FISA warrants, but he's saying there should be more transparency. But at the same time, if he's guilty, he's less likely to put himself in a difficult position where he can get caught doing things because he is asking for transparency. So it'll be very interesting to see how that works. Not sure. What do you guys think? You got a chance to hear all this and kind of hear me flex my muscles a little bit, or hear me flex my muscles. If that makes any sense. But nonetheless, he's got some very radical things to make sure what happened to him doesn't happen to another president, because this is going to be something that is applicable for Democrats too. So we'll see. Leave your comments down below and we'll get a feel for how everybody thinks about this, and hope to see you guys later on. Out.